They're lacking in the beauty factor, like we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't go top cheese all the time with some beauties, meaning it's going to be tough to win the hockey tournament.
Oh man, it's jokes.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Changing pace today because we're talking about hockey. Yeah, the Four Nations face-off is happening. Canada, the U.S., Sweden, and Finland going head to head to head to head. Yeah, it's something that happened in the middle of the hockey season. We can bet on it, so I want to talk about it. Am I the person you need to go to learn about hockey? Absolutely not. However, being a Canadian, I do know a lot of people who know about this stuff. So first up, you may recognize him from the show, usually talking about football, but he is now with the NHL, one of the co-hosts of the Fantasy on Ice podcast produced by the NHL, Christopher Meaney. What's going on, my man?
What's going on, Patrick? Hey, man, what a time to be alive. Talking hockey with Pat Mayo here. Love it, man. Thanks for having me. And it should be exciting here over the next couple of weeks, talking Four Nations.
Yeah, and the great thing is, I went on to Underdog. They're going to have player over-under, shot props, and all of this. So if you have not got in on Underdog, it is the place where you want to make these single-game plays. Code Mayo at Underdog right now will get you a free pick, so you can just have that and have a winner. It will also give you a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. So get in if you are in Canada, in the U.S. As long as you're not in Ontario, you can use it, which is a bad case for my main man, Jake Hahn, SiriusXM, and co-host with Meaney on the Fantasy on Ice podcast, and former classmate of one Pat Mayo in broadcasting school. Everything has come full circle now, Jake.
Ontario needs to figure it out, Pat. It needs to figure it out. I'm saving money, not playing on DraftKings and playing daily fantasy, to be completely honest. But they do need to figure it out, Pat. It's an honor to be on the show. Huge fan, huge listener. Like you said, we go way back to our college days. You're outnumbered by hockey guys here. We're going to turn you into a hockey guy by the end of the show. I've heard you and Cust and Jeff, you guys reference hockey a little bit on the show. So I think you're a sneaky hockey fan. You don't give yourself enough credit.
Listen, if we want to talk about like early 90s Canucks, I got you covered. Just Pavel Bure overs. Then we're going to have a winner here. I mean, even some Jeff Courtnall in our life. Maybe we can get that going too. I don't know about Russ, but Jeff, that's where you want to be. Today's day and age, I just looked at some of these names, Meaney, and I'm like, I don't know what country these people are from. I don't know how to pronounce this. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, back in the day in the office talking Pat Falloon with you. You know your hockey. You know your 90s hockey, your late 90s hockey. But I guess we'll teach you about a couple here. We do have a potential all Nova Scotia line with Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon and Brad Marchand. So some of the East Coast guys at least.
Well, I do know that Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon have their Nova Scotia houses about 3 minutes away from this office. So maybe I can just go knock on their door and see if they're Dad will tell me anything.
Yeah, they're probably trading. Yeah, they may not be home. They're probably trading, but it should be an exciting tournament. I mean, you look at Team Canada, Team USA, of course, they're favorites to win the Four Nations tournament. They loaded with stars, but it's going to be a lot of players, I think, that people are maybe a little bit unaware of. How good are they because of some of the teams that they play with? And there's a lot of skilled players here.
Well, let's break that down. The Four Nations face-off winner right now, the odds are provided by CoolBet. They have all of this up. So if you're in Canada, but again, not in Ontario, use CoolBet code DoggerPass will get you a big bonus over there if you just want to wager on this. Canada is plus 160 to win. The U.S. is plus 175. Sweden plus 425. And Finland, Jake, plus 650. What are the chances that Finland wins this?
So my initial thought, this was weeks ago, going back months, was just bet Finland. Just bet Finland, short tournament, take the biggest odds. Anything could happen. The Finns always just find a way to win. Any international stage, World Juniors, whatever it is, it always seems like Finland steps up. But unfortunately, they lost their best defenseman in Miro Heiskanen. And without Heiskanen on the back end, I struggle to think that this Finn team can keep up, right? Like, who are they replacing Heiskanen with? I think if there was any player they could not afford to lose, it was probably Heiskanen. They've got the forwards to compete. They have guys up front, Aho, Rantanen. They have legitimate forwards that can go toe to toe with these other countries. But I look at that blue line and I think it's going to be really difficult for Finland. The odds aren't long enough for me. If it was closer to 9-1, 10-1, I think I would be interested in Finland. If I was pivoting to a bigger odd outside of US or Canada, I think I would look to that Swedish roster.
Well, you would
I
have
think that's a little bit more of a complete
Jake,
team.
you would have to. There's only 4 teams.
There's only 4 teams, but I exactly. Well, and that's the problem. We had to make up a tournament. There's no Czech, there's no Russia, so we've only got 4 teams to pick from here. Means I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I think I'm leaving Finland to the side. As much as I want to bet the longest odds, I think I'm leaving Finland to the side here. Means.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Miro Heiskan's a guy that probably would have averaged nearly 30 minutes per game in this tournament, playing half the game. And you look at this blue line, it's very thin. There's not a lot of experience. Look at their second pair, and Oli Mata and Rasmus Ristolainen, having to go up against the star power in Canada and in Team USA on Team USA. It's going to be really tough. But Finland does have like you said, a track record of great play and international play. They're going to try to play a defensive style. They're not going to score a lot of goals, or they're going to try to, they got a good goalie in UC Saros too. So I would look at maybe, Pat, you're talking about props and player props, when Finland gets going. I'd say their star players like Barkov, Aho, Rantanen, just they lean on those guys quite a bit. At the end of the day, we may look at total ice time and it's like 3 of the top 7 maybe from Finland and their forward. So I would take a look at maybe some of their shot props, but they're going to play low scoring games and they just don't have the star power, and especially lacking the talent on the defensive side to probably win this tournament.
So who are we betting to win, Meaney?
I like Team Canada. Yeah, big shocker, of course. Going out on a limb, there's value in Sweden, certainly. But there's so much firepower on the Team USA and Team Canada. I think the Achilles heel for Canada will be their goaltending. Team USA they probably have the best team on paper. They're extremely deep. They got a ton of talent. They left really good players off of their roster, like Tage Thompson, Jason Robertson, Cole Caulfield. They made a couple puzzling decisions, but it's hard to go against the firepower that Canada has. And you'll like this, Pat. They just have a ton of winners, right? We could say grit, all those funny things that we can laugh at. But listen, in this situation, in this tournament, in a winner take all, and a head-to-head elimination format, you look up and down the lineup: Crosby, Cups, McKinnon, Marchand, Reinhart, Point, Stone, their blue line, Makar, Taves, Theodore. They're goalies. They're not great, but Hill has a cup. Bennington has a cup. There's a ton of experience up and down the lineup. And I think that's how Cooper and company wanted to pick their squad. Like, US has a ton of flashy forwards, but they don't have a lot of, big game experience. And really, that's probably what it'll come down to.
So, Jake, if you had to list the guys of, first guy in the arena, last guy off the bus, the old Roger Lajoie, does Canada has all those guys? Yeah.
They got a lot of good Canadian guys. A lot of like Meaney said.
Okay, beauty factor on these guys. Beauties.
Beauty factor is through the roof on Team Canada. And Meaney is right. They've got the cup experience. They have guys like oftentimes, and look, this is going back years now, right? We know a Canadian team hasn't won a Stanley Cup in a very long time, but those Stanley Cup winners are loaded with Canadian guys. Oftentimes you see the captain, the leaders on the team, Canadian players. So they tend to step up in the big moments in these big games. That being said, I am going to go with the American side here, guys. I think the talent is going to rise to the top in this situation. Unfortunately for Canada, they left their best goaltender at home. At least right now, he's their best goaltender, in Logan Thompson, who's having a Vezina caliber season for the Washington Capitals. Picked the team too early, and they're leaving, in my opinion, the best goaltender. And I think that could be an issue for Team Canada here. So it's close. It's a short tournament. Anything can happen, but I'm going to go with the American side, guys. I actually do think they're the most talented team, top to bottom. Connor Hellebuck between the pipes. I'm going to go with the Americans, even though they're lacking in the beauty factor like we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't go top cheese all the time with some beauties, Meaney, it's going to be tough to win a hockey tournament.
Oh, man, it's jokes. Yeah, it's, again, you look at this American team, and I think especially when you look at the bottom 6, I mean, they have a ton of talent on the squad. Brady Tkachuk is a power forward who, he's got beauty appeal to his game as well.
He
But,
does.
he's going to be in the bottom six. And again, I look at this at the overall makeup of the roster. They have the best goaltending. If you're going to rank all of the goalies, probably 3 of the top 4 are on Team USA, and Connor Hellebuck, who's, a massive favorite to win the Vezina. He's now, I think, plus 250 to win the Hart Trophy. The last time we saw a goalie win, the MVP, you got to go all the way back to 2015. So they're strong between the pipes. They have a significant edge there, and their backup goalies are better than, Team Canada's starter and who they're going to roll out there. But I look at the defense, and, Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox and Zach Grensky. These guys are all having good seasons. They have a lot of offensive ability to their game, but I wonder about the defensive structure too. So I think when we look at the end of the day, we're just like, man, Team USA is the funnest squad to watch. Like, they're going to score a ton of goals. They're going to be extremely flashy, where the Canadians, and we've seen this before in previous tournaments, especially in the Olympics, the way that they pick their squad with, defensive forwards. They'll actually play with shutdown forwards. They'll try to line match. We saw it a few years ago with Jonathan Taves going up against powerhouses like Ovechkin and shutting them down. So Cooper's going to play that type of style for Team Canada. But USA will probably be the funnest team to watch in this tournament. Like, consider a lot of the overs when they suit up.
When you mentioned the last goalie to win a Vezina, it popped in my mind. It's like, I remember the last goalie to win the Vezina in my mind, because I haven't paid attention in 20 years. I was hoping you were going to say it was Jose Theodore.
It second last. It was a different Canadians goalie and Carey Price. So there's only been 2 goalies to win the Hart Trophy since, I believe, 2000. And it's Jose Theodore, which, yeah, I think you were a fan of hockey maybe then in the early 2000s. And then
I just remember he was tied up with
Price.
the mob somehow. That's the last thing I remember about him.
No comment there.
Gabe would always tell us about it in the office.
He would. Yeah, Gabe Morency had the inside track on any Canadian goalies or any French Canadian players, certainly in the Montreal area. But yeah, I mean, I think Jake would agree that, maybe Team USA doesn't have that experience, Stanley Cup playoff experience. We'll have a handful of players that, have even been to a finals. But at the end of the day, Jake, they got the goalie and Connor Hellebuck, and he's, he wasn't fantastic in the playoffs last year. The Jets were bounced. He had a very similar type of season, but he's definitely the best goalie, and I don't think it's close.
I think in a short tournament, guys, I'm leaning on the goaltending, right? I'm just leaning on a guy that, okay, he doesn't have to wear down over a really long, grueling tournament. He's only got to play a few games. And look at the workload Connor Hellebuck's had just this season with the Winnipeg Jets, right? Like, this guy is playing so much hockey. So I think he's up to the task. You mentioned it, Meaney. I know he kind of fell apart in the playoffs last year. A lot of people are asking that question about Winnipeg. Okay, a great regular season this year. Are they going to fall apart in the playoffs again? I think Connor Hellebuck's up to the task. So I think when you put the rosters side by side, they're loaded with talent. Like, you got the best players in the world on Canada and USA going toe to toe. If I'm splitting the difference, I'm leaning with the best goaltender in the world. And in my opinion, that's Connor Hellebuck. And I just don't know if I trust Hill and Binnington to make that big save as much as I do Hellebuck. And that's why I'm leaning towards the States here.
Do you think it ends up being, I mean, you're kind of making picks in opposite ways. Like, you're going to have defensive forwards trying to play lockdown. I assume this is the NHL ice. It's not the Olympic ice, Meaney?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they'll be played in Montreal and in Boston.
So it's going to be a smaller ice surface, easier to shut guys down, clog everything up. Jake, do you think it'll be a higher scoring or a lower scoring type tournament versus what you see night to night in the NHL?
Good question. I think it's going to be lower scoring. I do. And I think, and maybe Means disagrees, but I think what we're watching in the NHL, because this is an NHL tournament. These are NHL players, and they're putting this tournament on to get some international hockey, get a little bit of buzz. This is replacing the All-Star game. I'll certainly take this over the All-Star game, by the way. I'm more than happy to watch this over what we get from the All-Star game every year. But this is an NHL tournament played on NHL ice by NHL players. And what we've seen in the NHL this year is lower scoring, low event hockey. That it's actually trending down over the last few years. The goal scoring has been trending up. We've seen some higher scoring games. That's going the other way recently. We have seen some tighter, lower scoring hockey. And I think that's what teams and coaches are going to lean on in a short tournament, is try to lock it down, try to play it safe, lean on those goaltenders. So I am going to lean towards some unders. Not to say we can't get some loose hockey. I know, Meaney, you referenced that with the US team where maybe we get some overs in those games. Outside of that, I think we see some lower scoring hockey in this tournament.
Yeah, I'd take a look at maybe some team totals when it comes to Team USA. We've given a ton of flowers to Hellebuck, so maybe they can keep the puck out of their net, but they're certainly going to be able to score goals. And you look at up and down their lineup with Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, Kyle Connor, Jack Hughes, Matthew Tkachuk, and Brady Tkachuk. I mean, they got Jake Gensel penciled in on the third line. He's a former 40-goal scorer, so they have a ton of offense up and down their lineup. I mean, Matt Boldy's a guy that's going to score 35 in his sleep. He's scheduled to be on their fourth line. I look at Team Canada and I think they'll have to play some sort of defensive structure. I referenced a few years ago when they had, defensive players and playing certain matchups because of the goaltending that you alluded to. I mean, you look at the top pair and Makar and Taves, these guys have won a Stanley Cup together in Colorado. They're partners. They've been partners for years. There's a lot of familiarity there with those two players. And then you look at their bottom six, and I think some people are thinking, like, why is Brendan Hagel there and maybe Mark Stone or Anthony Cirelli? These are players that kind of play a two-way style of hockey. Like they may not be asked to forecheck them. They may be asked to do those little things to clog up the neutral zone. They don't want to be allowing tons of shots on their goaltenders that they may have some questions about between the pipes, because Jake's spot on. The best Canadian goalie this year, and it hasn't even been close, is Logan Thompson. And it's a huge mistake. I think that, he's not there. So Canada may play to some unders despite the goaltending, just with their structure. But I think Team USA is, when we look back, they'll probably score the most goals in the tournament.
How excited are people for this tournament? Because when was the last time we saw all of the best players internationally play against each other? The 2016 Olympics, Jake?
2014 Olympics. So Canada won 2010 in Vancouver, and then 2014. Honestly, that 2014 tournament was pretty boring, to be completely honest. That Canadian team was probably the most dominant team I think I can remember in international hockey, and they just threw a blanket over everybody, didn't allow any shots. So that's the last time I think we really truly saw best on best, unless you're counting the World Cup. We did do the World Cup, another event that Canada won. We saw Team Europe go on a little bit of a run, but that was a weird tournament. You had Team Europe, this mismatch of all these different European countries. You had Team North America, that was all the young players. So this is the first time that we've really seen these nations get together. It's still lacking a little bit. Like, I'd love to see Czechia. I'd love to see Germany with Leon Draisaitl. I'd love to see Switzerland. I'd love to see some of these other countries. Ultimately, these are the best four and probably the teams that would be competing anyways. But yeah, Meaney, it's been a while since we've seen legitimate best on best from the top players in hockey, right?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, we haven't seen Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon play together. We just haven't seen that. These are the two best players in the NHL. A lot of people want to say McDavid is on a tier by himself, but I think McKinnon, who leads the NHL in points, is on that tier with him. We look at some of our edge stats over at NHL.com/fantasy. These are literally the two fastest players in the NHL. You want to include Cale Makar there as well on the Canadian blue line. They have the three fastest players, and we've yet to see those guys. We see McKinnon and Makar together every night, but putting McDavid with those guys, and Sidney Crosby near the end of his career still has a whole lot to offer. So we have yet to see really best on best in quite some time. And, Jake's right. There's some people that would like to see a Leon Draisaitl, Nikita Kucherov, Alex Ovechkin, Kirill Kaprizov here in this tournament. Unfortunately, not going to be able to play, but we've yet to see a lot of the star power here. Even you look at the American team that I mentioned earlier, Eichel, Matthews and Jack Hughes. Like, that is something I think a lot of people are really looking forward to seeing.
See, they should have allowed the Russians to play in there. I mean, there should be a Russian team in this tournament. Come on, it's hockey. We need to have the Russians in here. But if they're not going to let, like, the Federation of Russia play as a team, should have been like when we used to go to lacrosse nationals, being from the East Coast, have to travel to Ontario. Like, we would pick up some of the best players from some of the other teams along the way to join us. Like, there should have been a Russian player draft, like 2 Russian dudes per each team. Like, Canada could draft Ovechkin if they wanted to. That would have been fun.
Yeah, Finland probably
needs
looking
the
to grab
break.
some of those guys, right, Jake?
Oh no! Well, Ovi's fired up for the break. I as much as I'm sure he'd love to play in this tournament with Russia, he is an older gentleman now at this point, and he is trying to chase down Gretzky.
He is Meaney and I's age, Jake. How dare you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to offend you guys. I'm creeping up close myself, to be honest. But yeah, Ovi needs the break. He needs the 2 weeks off. I actually think it's perfect for the Capitals from an NHL side. A Capitals team that doesn't have guys going to this tournament. We talked about Logan Thompson, the goaltender, not going. I think that's a great thing for a veteran Capitals team that is at the top of their division right now to get a 2-week break and get their older gentleman that I referenced in Alex Ovechkin a couple weeks off. But yes, I would love to see Ovi. I'd love to see Draisaitl. Love to see some of these top players. So it's going to be missing, but I think once these games start, guys, we're going to be dialed in. If you're a hockey fan, you're going to love seeing these guys go toe to toe.
So does it have the buzz, Meaney, of like, I mean, I don't pay attention to hockey media, so this could be the biggest thing in the world or not anything whatsoever. Like I wouldn't notice either way. It's not like I'm tuning in every single night to TSN for them to tell me how important. Who has the broadcast rights in Canada for this? So whatever one has that, then they'll be telling me how important this is.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the broadcast rights, but there is buzz. There is buzz from some of the things that we just talked about. Sportsnet. Yeah, I mean, we'll hear Chris Cutford, I guess, on the call. But yeah, there is some buzz because some of the things that we just talked about, right? Like the best players that in the world we haven't seen on the big stage. Like back when Jake was talking about the 2014 Olympics, McDavid wasn't around. Like McKinnon wasn't around. These guys weren't playing, on those squads. So there is a little bit of a buzz there. The team that we haven't really discussed is Sweden. From a betting standpoint, they probably have the best value on the board. I mean, you talked about it earlier with the, plus 165 or plus 170 there for the two top teams that we're talking about. Team Sweden, you look at their defense, they have some horses on the blue line that we talked about. Mira Heiskanen playing nearly 30 minutes a game. You look at Hedman and Dahlin and Erik Karlsson. These are guys that play well over 20 minutes on their respective clubs. Gustav Forsling's a guy that logged heavy minutes, won the Stanley Cup last year for Florida, had a breakout campaign. So their top four is pretty strong. And, offensively, they got William Nylander's among the leaders in goals scored. Jesper Bratt's having a heck of a season. They got some guys like Forsberg and Lucas Raymond who can put the puck in the net, and they may have one of the best defensive forwards. Joel Eriksson Ek will have, large roles when Team Sweden's playing against Canada and US. So, Jake, I don't know where you're at with Team Sweden, but I look at the first matchup against Canada and they're massive underdogs, and it wouldn't shock me if they pulled off a victory, certainly hung around in that game.
So I might lose my Canadian citizenship here, but I will be betting Sweden in that game. That number is just too big. I think that should be way. I get the games happening in Canada. I don't know how much the crowd is going to be a factor in home ice in a short tournament like this. So I will be betting Sweden in that game. I just think that is a huge number. And I'm flirting with betting Sweden to win this tournament as well. I know I mentioned I like the US. It would probably be between those two for me. I think that's a good number on the Swedish roster. They're loaded with guys that can actually finish. When I look at the Canadian roster, heck, even the US roster, I get there's some great goal scorers, there's some top end players, but Sweden to me has finishing ability. You mentioned Nylander. I mean, he's second in the rocket race right now to Leon Draisaitl this year in the NHL. Philip Forsberg's a guy that can score a ton of goals. Adrian Kempe is someone I'm looking at maybe most goals from the Swedish roster. I think it's around 10-1 right now. I don't mind that number. I think he's a guy that's going to be in a lot of shooting positions for Sweden. So they have guys that can finish, they have guys that can score, and they have, to me, an elite back end. So a lot to like with Sweden, and I think I'm going to be betting the money line in that first game against Canada.
Welcome to the TGL presented by SoFi, golf's newest league. It's sharp. It's electric. How sharp is it? How electric is it? Good questions. Try this on for size. 2 hours of hammer dropping, overtime forcing, playoffs on the line, golf with 24 of the best players from the PGA Tour, split into 6 teams: Atlanta, Boston, Jupiter, LA, New York, and the Bay Golf Club. This isn't your average Sunday pickup game. Tune in to TGL Monday or Tuesday night only on ESPN. Claim yourself a seat for the first season of TGL now. Keep up. It's golf. How does the format for this work? Is it just round robin, then 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3, or is it like the 4th place team is done, the winner goes to the final? Like, how does it work?
No, you got it right off the hop. They'll play each other, and then they'll go 1-4.
And this is
move on that way.
And this is replacing the All-Star game?
Yeah, no All-Star game this year. And Jake said it, right? The All-Star game is I think it's exciting for younger players.
It's dead, isn't it?
It's not as dead as, say, the Pro Bowl.
Okay.
Or the MLB All-Star game, right? I think there's maybe a little bit more excitement in that because they have the skills competition. I think that's the most exciting of the two.
Why don't they have the skills competition for this? Like, wouldn't that make it more exciting too, as like an attraction, if nothing else? I used to love.
I think it's a pretty good idea.
Love the skills competition.
Yeah, I like it too. Especially when I was younger, I loved seeing the fastest gauge, the hardest shot competition. Seeing the target range and things like that. I think what Jake said, it's just a little bit of a switch up here. Now we're looking best on best. We've seen this, and we talked earlier about some of the big time players that are not going to be in this tournament. Some of them, so they'd be missing if they had some sort of skills event.
And I'm with you, Pat. I mean, I missed the skills how it used to be, though. I actually heard you, Tim, and Jeff throwing it around the other day on one of your shows, and I missed what it used to be. It felt like it meant something: hardest shot, accuracy, all these sorts of events. I think they've kind of lost their way a little bit. It was in Toronto last year, and we saw a guy like Nikita Kucherov just kind of go through the motions, and it's a little bit of a different vibe now, right? Right, Meaney? It's not the same as it used to be. I wish it was, because I have some great memories of those 90s skills competitions. I don't think the game is ever really going to be that good, right? It's so hard to replicate a legitimate all-star game. I think the NFL has the same problem with the Pro Bowl. Baseball is probably the only one I think that can do it, but I do miss the old skills competitions. I don't think we'll ever get that again.
Let's talk props for this tournament. I want to bring in Jared. So we got Jared to produce this one because he has takes on hockey, which I do not. So he is going to be my representative to give out some props here. You liked a Finnish goal scorer. Is that correct?
That I do, yeah. What do you guys make of Mika Zibanejad to be top goal scorer for the Swedes? It looks like he might be on the top line and might be on the top power play as well. And he's not the top odds guy on the board. He's like second or third, as far as I know. What do you guys make of that?
He's 20-1 top goal scorer.
Yeah, I think if you would have asked me just 2 weeks ago, it would have been like, no way.
No. Yeah.
But now the Rangers acquired JT Miller, and they've paired him up with Mika Zibanejad, and they played 3 games together, and it's Mika Zibanejad's probably played his best hockey of the season over the past week. And I think form matters quite a bit. I mean, these guys are streaky players, and confidence does matter. And he is penciled in to play on that top line. So I think it's pretty solid, right? You got Nylander there, who's favored at 3-1, with Forsberg at 3-1, Lucas Raymond, who's more of a pass first guy, Jesper Bratt, also a bit of a pass first guy there. So I like the call that Jake had on Kempe at 10-1, but if you're looking for some value there at Mika Zibanejad, just playing with those 2 wings and kind of thin down the middle of the ice. Elias Pettersson's not having a great season. Mentioned Joel Eriksson X going to be in a shutdown role. So I do like that call. I mean, 20-1. I think my favorite would be Kempe, just because of what he can bring, and he's more of a shooter.
I think keep an eye on power play combos as well, right? It's going to be tricky because we won't really know until you turn on the game. Maybe someone's going to be reporting it the week of, right? Okay, Sweden's practicing with these particular power play combos. That's really going to matter, I think, in this market, right? Because I look at a lot of power play guys on Sweden: Forsberg, Nylander. We talked about Kempe, Zibanejad. I think would be a good one. If Zibanejad's in that slot that he's in for the Rangers on the power play, then yeah, I would love to bet that number, right? So a lot of it is going to come down to usage, and all these players, for the most part, on their respective teams, are top end players. When you come to an international tournament like this, sometimes you get slotted as a second line, third line guy, and I think that's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on the week of. I'm going to be scouring social media to see if I can find some good line combos.
Where can people follow you on X, Jake, just to make sure that they don't miss out on this if they want to get in? Because I'll get in on Kempe 10-1 and Zibanejad 20-1. Why not?
Why not play both of them? Obviously, Nylander, some of these top guys are, but I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, does Nylander really need to be 3-1 top goal scorer for Sweden? I think that's a little bit steep. I think a lot of that has to do with what he's doing with the Maple Leafs this year and the fact that he's just scoring a ton of goals. So it could be a different situation on Sweden, but you can follow me over at jhahn4 on Twitter, and I'll be scouring social media the week of to see if I can find any good line combos, any value for this tournament.
So, Meaney, let's go to the USA. Top goal scorer for them is Austin Matthews, plus 275. Then you got Jack Hughes at plus 650. Brady Tkachuk down at 9-1. Jack Eichel at 10-1. Kyle Connor, 11-1. Is there anyone of value down this list, or is the answer just Austin Matthews?
No, I don't think the answer is Austin Matthews. Similar to what Jake was talking about with William Nylander, there's really no value on the board there. I like a guy like Kyle Connor, and I think people are really sleeping on him. He's among leaders in in goal scorers. And of course, as Jake said, we'll take a look at the lines, but I'd say that they probably have some sort of line that's Kyle Connor, Austin Matthews, and Jack Hughes, who's a terrific playmaker. And for Kyle Connor at 10-1, I believe I saw 30-1 for him to lead 30-1 to lead the tournament in goals too. I think is a pretty decent number. And Matthew Tkachuk, I think at 10-1. So I would bypass maybe the first couple of players in Matthews and Jack Hughes and take a look at the guys again who are in great form. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk has scored in 5 straight games. He's playing his best hockey of the season at the moment. He is one of those players that could just do everything, right? He's going to lay the body. He loves to shoot the puck. He's one of the toughest players to play against. So he's going to log a lot of ice time, whether they shuffle their lines throughout the tournament. He's either going to play with elite centers like Jack Eichel or Austin Matthews. And I have a hard time believing that he won't be on that top power play, as Jake alluded to earlier. Power plays pretty significant. So I would go down the board. Tkachuk 10-1, Kyle Connor 10-1, maybe even a guy like Jake Gensel who can move himself up and down the lineup at 10-1 as well.
So listen to this, Jake. If you go to CoolBet right now, code DoggerPass, you can get them at 11-1 for Top USA and 30-1 apiece to be the top goal scorers for the tournament. And you seem to think that USA is going to have the firepower, even if they lose a game 7-8, they might just be trying to score the entire time.
So I couldn't agree more with Means about Kyle Connor. This guy is elite level goal scorer. He scores in so many different ways too. He's got this excellent shot, but he has this ability to kind of just get lost in front of the net, right? And defense trying to cover him, and he just finds a way to find those loose pucks. Like he is a legitimate goal scorer. So I like Kyle Connor. I think they're going to use him in a lot of offensive situations. I also like Quinn Hughes for most points on the US side. Now there's some speculation that maybe he won't play because he's banged up, but it sounds like he's going to give it a go. And the Canucks are leaving it up to Quinn Hughes. So I think he's going to play. When you leave it up to the player is going to want to play. I assume Quinn Hughes is going to play. Obviously, if he doesn't, your bet probably gets voided, but I think he's going to play, and I think a lot of the offense is going to go through Quinn Hughes on the back end. So I like him for most points on the American side.
What about most points for the tournament?
Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I don't know, Means if you have a take on this one. But look, if the U.S. is going to win, right? If I believe they're going to win, they're probably going to play the most games, or at least whoever they play in the gold medal game, or are we even calling it a gold medal trophy, whatever it is, then they're going to play the most games. And I do think if I like him to have the most points on his team, then yes, most points in the tournament would make a lot of sense. Meanie, do you have any looks there, most points in the tournament? I know you've been leaning a little more towards the Canadian side.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Hughes call at 22-1, but I'll stick with the theme of defenseman and go Cale Makar, right? Cale Makar, I think, will lead this entire tournament in ice time. I mean, you look at Colorado and the trends, I mean, they lean on their top guys quite a bit. Cale Makar's a guy that can play 30 minutes easily with his skating ability. And you look at the firepower that Team Canada has. I mean, what are they going to do with their lines? McDavid and McKinnon and Crosby, they're going to play together. They're going to have the Nova Scotia line together. None of that matters because Cale Makar is going to play essentially half of each one of Canada's games and on the blue line. And he is 22-1 to lead the tournament in points. So, maybe again, bypass some of those other, I mean, look at the favorites, top 2 Canadians, right? Vegas is thinking that those 2 guys, and it's warranted, right? They're 2 best players in the NHL, are going to have success in this tournament. But Cale Makar, you're getting a really good number at him. And, you can go down the board and it's Sidney Crosby. And this guy still has it, right? He's 25-1, and he hasn't played with the best of line mates this season. You look at some of their players like Rickard Raquel and Brian Rust are having good seasons, and it's essentially because of Sidney Crosby. So Crosby's another guy that I would take a look at, and a lot of people are going to look at the younger players here, but don't forget about the vet. He just won multiple cups.
Jared, that piqued your interest.
That it did. My pants just got shorter once you said Kyle Connor and Hughes. Man, those are the only 2 bets that I made. But I wanted to get your guys' takes on the defensemen that Canada are going to add, because they have the odds at CoolBet right now, and Drew Doughty is plus 175.
This is coming out. You're producing the show. This is coming out on Monday.
I have takes on this still.
Is that not going to be settled by the time Monday comes around?
It should, Meanie. I think it should, but this tournament doesn't start till a little bit later, so maybe they take their time with this one.
They have been taking their time. Like Petrangelo's been out for a long time now, and they still haven't made a decision. But where do you guys think
they should bring Uyghur? I think they should bring Uyghur, but I think they're probably going to bring Doughty, right, Meanie?
I think so.
Hold on. Drew Doughty is eligible to play. How old is Drew Doughty?
Yeah, he's pushing 40. I think he's just past the mid-30s. But again, going with the theme of Team Canada, you look up and down this lineup. I'll say it one more time. Crosby, multiple cups. McKinnon, cup. Marchand, cup. Reinhart, cup. Hagel played in the Stanley Cup final. Point, cup. Stone, cup. Bennett, cup. Cirelli, cup. Yeah. Look at the blue line. Makar, Taves, Theodore. It fits the theme of what they want to do. And it's just a couple games here. Right, it's a win or go home game. We're not talking about a 7-game series. Doughty has said multiple times over the past week he wants to play. He fractured his ankle in the preseason. He's only played a handful of games. He's logged heavy minutes since his return. He wants to be there. He's been part of a lot of successful Team Canada squads before. I would be shocked if it wasn't him. I agree with Jake, Mackenzie Weegar. There's multiple Canadian players that you could choose from. There's a lot of good players that are left off a lot of these teams, Team Canada and Team USA, but Doughty has that experience. He has multiple Stanley Cups as well. I'd be shocked if it wasn't him.
He just feels like the safe play. He feels like the guy that's been there before. That's, that fits the mold. Exactly what you said, Meaney, right? Go along with all these other Stanley Cup winners. And he's just played international hockey before. So I think it's kind of the easy pick. He is coming off a long injury, though. I know he's only played, like a week and a half the NHL season. He missed the whole year. He got that injury in preseason. So maybe a little risk involved with where he's at, but he has been playing heavy minutes. And I think they should bring Weegar personally. I think he's earned it. I think he's a great all-around defenseman. I don't think they go to Bouchard. I know some people feel like Bouchard should go. I wouldn't really understand that because he's a power play guy. They already have that with Makar and some other players, so I don't think they go Bouchard. Ultimately, they probably circle back and just go with Drew Doughty.
Okay, so these are the bets that I have in from listening to you guys talk, all right? I got top goal scorer Sweden, Kempe, at $75, pays $825. Not bad at 10-1 there. So it pays $750. We got Zibanejad, 20 in a $50 bet, pays $1,000. That's also not bad. You said it's Makar, not Maker? It's not Kale Maker? That's not his name? And this guy's Canadian?
No. Yeah. And he's a beauty, Pat.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
He's probably the best player in the tournament, like with no disrespect to McKinnon and McDavid.
All right, so 20-1, top point scorer for the entire tournament. So those other ones were top goal scorer on Sweden alone. And then I took top tournament goal scorer, Kyle Connor, 30-1 overall. What do you think?
I love the Connor bet. I really do. I am kind of leaning towards the US, even though I've kind of talked myself into Sweden a little bit coming on with you guys here. I don't know. Sweden's starting to interest me a little bit more the more I look at that roster and some of their goal scoring potential. But if the US is going to win and they're going to go on a run in this tournament, I think Kyle Connor is going to be the guy putting the puck in the back of the net. And you're getting way better odds than you would with an Austin Matthews, right? Like obviously Matthews is as good as it gets when it comes to scoring goals in the National Hockey League, but Connor's right there with him and you're getting way better odds. So I like that play.
All right, Meaney.
Yeah, I like where you're at, Pat.
Tell everyone where they can find you and your new work, because you're not coming on the Pat Mayo Experience as often anymore because you got a big-time job now. Tell the people.
I do miss you and the crew. There's no question, always tuning into you guys. But yeah, we'll be covering every single game. We'll have player props and point props to target as well over at NHLfantasy.com. And yeah, love chopping it up with Jake twice a week and the Fantasy on Ice podcast. You can listen wherever you listen to your podcast. That's on Mondays and Thursdays. And we will have a preview show as well once we get closer to puck drop for the tournament. So yeah, NHL.com/fantasy for all the work, and at Chris Meaney on Twitter.
All right. Jake, how about you?
You can catch me 1 to 3 Eastern time on SiriusXM NHL Network Radio on The Point. We're going to shift a little bit for Four Nations, shift the schedule a little bit, so you actually catch me 3 to 5 for the next couple of weeks. And like Meaney said, NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast usually drop an episode every Monday and Thursday. It's a fantasy show, but we do a lot of gambling, betting, just general NHL talk as well. So thanks for having me on, Pat. I'm a huge fan of the channel. I listen, I watch all the time, NFL shows, golf shows. So keep up the great work. I always love tuning in.
Appreciate that. If you want to help support the show or just get yourself some free money, go to Underdog right now and use code Mayo. Get yourself a deposit bonus, get yourself a free pick, and boom, you can fire on whatever the hell we're calling this, the Four Nation something or other. Hockey! It's back on the Pat Mayo Experience, and you be here. So thank you for tuning in. Smash like and sub to the channel, and the audio on Apple and Spotify is always out too. So please sub, rate, and review over there to help us out. Okay, and maybe listen, if the show does well enough, I'll have to have Jake and Meaney back to talk some more hockey. Okay, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Experience! Experience!